officials' hopes of a financial lifeline for COVID-battered Africa ran high at a summit hosted by French President Emmanuel Macron in the French capital Paris on Tuesday. The summit discussed the integration of African economies into the global economy, as well as the transfer of technology to the continent.
President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi attended a one-day summit on financing Africa's post-pandemic recovery in Paris, where African leaders and the heads of multilateral lenders probed ways of financing African economies hurt by the COVID-19 pandemic and discussed handling the continent's billions of dollars in debt. In a final communique, the leaders called for a quick decision to redirect billions of dollars of reserves at the IMF to Africa to help finance African economies hurt by the COVID-19 pandemic. The leaders also called for swift decisions on the implementation of an unprecedented general allocation of IMF special drawing rights that is expected to amount to $650 billion, of which $33 billion to increase reserve assets of African countries. They warned that the risk of inequality could open up even further as richer countries implement massive stimulus packages while leaving Africa without the financing to keep up robust pre-pandemic growth rates. Participants were determined to magnify the impact of IMF SDRs through voluntary on-lending to African nations and said that more COVID-19 vaccines should be made available through dose sharing and through developing the local production capacity. At a press conference, French President Emmanuel Macron said they had agreed to reach a deal between June and October on redirecting $100 billion of the IMF's special drawing rights allocation to Africa. Macron said the allocation would help the path of development in the African continent. He expressed France's readiness to cooperate with any country to provide Africa with help. The French leader noted that Paris had managed to increase withdrawal limit to African countries from IMF. Macron said meetings would be held for the African Union, G20, G7 and international lenders, reiterating that his country wants to support Africa to get its share from pandemic vaccines through partnership with tech institutions and the World Bank. Adding that despite the challenges, Africa has everything to succeed and the capacity of what we collectively decide to propose a new reality. For his part, Democratic Republic of Congo President Felix Tshisekedi, whose country holds the rotating African Union presidency, praised the summit as a great opportunity and said Macron was offering a new deal. He called for a new transparent fiscal system that helps ease investor worries and requested an increase of means to combat terrorism in the continent. For her part, head of the IMF, Kristalina Georgieva, stressed the significance of providing all required money to finance African needs for the vaccine. She warned that the African economic growth would reach just 3.2% this year, far behind the rest of the world's projected 6%. And Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman said the kingdom would continue to support African countries to help the recovery following the COVID-19 blow to their economies, with investments and loans worth around $1 billion this year. The gathering brought together some 30 African and European heads of state, as well as the heads of global financial institutions. The summit was part of recasting France's engagement in Africa at a time the continent faces nearly $300 billion deficit by the end of 2023, while trying to recover from the downturn.
On the sidelines of the Paris conference, President el-Sisi, French President Emmanuel Macron and Jordan's King Abdullah II held talks in Paris over developments in Palestine. The trilateral meeting discussed efforts for a rapid ceasefire and prevent the extension of the conflict. Presidential spokesman Bassem Radi said that during the meeting, President el-Sisi promised $500 million for the reconstruction of Gaza following Israeli airstrikes. The statement said Egyptian companies will also participate in rebuilding the operations. Radi said el-Sisi stressed that the meeting and its timing are of prime importance. He said it aimed to formulate a joint international movement by the three parties to stop violence and contain the dangerous developments in the Palestinian lands, which is leading to dire humanitarian crises in Gaza. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi said on Tuesday Egypt is looking forward to boosting ties with Portugal and activating joint cooperation on all levels. The head of state was speaking during a meeting with Portugal's Prime Minister Antonio Costa in Paris on the sidelines of a Paris conference on African economy. Presidential spokesperson Bassem Rodi said President el-Sisi praised Portugal's chairmanship of the European Union and efforts to support African issues. The head of state expressed his appreciation of the strong mutual coordination over regional and international issues of mutual concern. el-Sisi stressed on the significance of keeping joint coordination mechanisms. For his part, the Portuguese premier affirmed that his country is keen on boosting ties with Cairo on all domains. Costa said Portugal supports efforts by Cairo to achieve comprehensive economic development. He noted that efforts by Cairo to prevent illegal immigration are highly valued, as well as its hosting of millions of refugees. The meeting also tackled tourism and trade ties and developments in the Middle East region amid the current challenges. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi affirmed that Egyptians play a pivotal role in succeeding the state's efforts in implementing the ongoing economic reform process, with their awareness of the significance of the reform measures being taken in this context. During his meeting with General Director of the International Monetary Fund, Kristalina Georgieva, in Paris, the head of state pointed to the progress that had been confirmed by positive indicators of the economy by the testimony of the official data of the International Monetary Fund and the improvement in the credit rating of Egypt by specialized international institutions, especially during the coronavirus pandemic. Presidential spokesman Ambassador Bassem Rodi said the meeting tackled reviewing the fruitful cooperation process between Egypt and the International Monetary Fund over the past years, as the president expressed appreciation for that constructive partnership which led to the success of the implementation of the comprehensive economic reform program in Egypt. The president stressed that Egypt is keen to continue cooperation with the fund, given what this partnership represents in terms of providing a positive atmosphere for all investors and global financial markets regarding the Egyptian economy. For her part, the General Director of the IMF affirmed the fund's aspiration to continue the distinguished cooperation relations with Egypt that is considered a successful story and a model to follow. She praised the Egyptian economic performance despite the corona pandemic. Various state parties, syndicates and institutions, including A Decent Life, announced on Tuesday their full support for an Egyptian initiative launched by President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi to allocate $500 million for the reconstruction of the Gaza Strip. They thanked President el-Sisi and reaffirmed their full confidence in all efforts of the political leadership to support Palestinian brothers and opening the Rafah crossing border to receive all the injured and victims and concluding the reconstruction process in the Gaza Strip. Meanwhile, Tahya Masr Fund announced the allocation of account number 037037 for Gaza reconstruction.
The parliament announced on Tuesday its full support for an Egyptian initiative launched by President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi to allocate $500 million for the reconstruction of Gaza Strip. The parliament thanked President el-Sisi and reaffirmed its full confidence in all efforts of the political leadership to support Palestinian brothers and opening the Rafah crossing border to receive all injured and victims and concluding the reconstruction process in the Gaza Strip. It also stressed that the party would play its full role during the next phase in supporting the brothers in Palestine. The parliament also strongly condemned continued aggression of the Gaza Strip and all the Palestinian lands, which is considered a severe violation of international law and human rights treaties. In the same context, Minister of Endowments issued a statement to support the Gaza Reconstruction Initiative. It said it values President el-Sisi's initiative and stresses the great stands come from a great leader and a great nation. He called on all Arab and Islamic states and the free people of the world to seriously get engaged in the initiative. He said the ministry has on its part allocated £50 million from endowments financing medical and food supplies to the Gaza people. He said Jerusalem's great value in the hearts and minds of every Arab and Muslim is ever established, as well as the Al-Aqsa Mosque. Also, the Coordination Committee of Parties, Youth Leaders and Politicians (CPYP) said it values the keenness of the political leadership on the reconstruction of Palestinian state. The CPYP said the political leadership in Egypt has been the first defense line for the Palestinian issue. It said it has been following with pride political and diplomatic efforts by the political leadership in Egypt to support the Palestinians in their existential issue and the right to an independent state with East Jerusalem as its capital. The CPYP said it extends thanks to President al-Sisi for allocating $50 million for the reconstruction of the Palestinian state. Moreover, Mustaqbal Watan Party announced on Tuesday its full support for President al-Sisi efforts in boosting the Palestinian people. The party asserts its boosting for the presidential initiative of allocating $500 million for reconstruction of Gaza Strip and participation of Egyptian companies specialized in the reconstruction process. The party also expresses appreciation and honor of the Egyptian leadership efforts in boosting the Palestinian cause and the Arab issues in general. Al-Ghad Party also announced its full support for the Egyptian initiative launched by President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi to allocate $500 million for the reconstruction of Gaza Strip. The party added it stands with all its leaders and members behind the Egyptian political leadership with all measures and steps it takes to protect security and peace of Egyptian territories internally and externally. The National Training Academy, for its part, said it will employ all its capabilities to support the development of young human cadres in Palestine in line with al-Sisi's Gaza Reconstruction Initiative. It said it plans to train Palestinian youth to qualify them in various programs in partnership with major international institutions in order to enable them to get acquainted with the latest developments in the fields of management, leadership, technology, and other fields. It said 5 full scholarships will be allocated in the program to qualify executives, while a program for 200 trainees on leadership and management skills will be made available to Palestinian brothers through the Academy's online platform.
Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas expressed his appreciation for the patriotic and national stance announced by President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi in his initiative to contribute to supporting the Palestinian people from the harms of Israeli aggression. Abbas said that this national and historical stance reflects the reality of Egypt and its role in supporting the Palestinian people and defending their rights until the establishment of their independent state with East Jerusalem as its capital. Head of the National Media Authority, Hussein Zain, announced on Tuesday his full support of the authority for the presidential initiative to allocate $500,000 for reconstruction process in the Gaza Strip as a result of recent events with specialized Egyptian companies participating in the implementation of the reconstruction process. Zain hailed the great positions which express support of the political leadership for Palestinian people and their legitimate rights. The National Media Authority commended the stance taken by the political leadership in opening the Rafah crossing border and providing assistance for the Palestinian brothers. The National Media Authority affirmed the continuation of providing media support for the legitimate rights of the Palestinian people to achieve peace and security in the region. The crossing is also providing relief for the injured and wounded, as well as receiving them in Egyptian hospitals for treatment. Minister of Health Hala Zaid said 11 hospitals in northern Sinai, Ismailia and Cairo have been prepared to receive Gaza's injured from the Israeli occupation air raids. The minister said 37 medical teams have been sent to northern Sinai and blood and plasma supplies boosted in medical centers in the Canal region. Minister Zaid also noted that a central operation room had been formed to follow up on medical services offered to the Palestinian brothers across the hospitals. The UN Security Council held its fourth emergency meeting in just over a week on the Gaza crisis. Palestinian envoy to the United Nations, Riyad Mansour, on Tuesday pleaded with the world body to gather more humanitarian aid for Gaza amid intense Israeli bombing, as the Security Council held its fourth meeting on the conflict without issuing a statement. Mansour said it was shameful that the Council had not expressed a unified position calling for the end of this aggression. For his part, Sofiane Memouni, the chair of the Arab group at the UN, told reporters that they are disappointed to see the Security Council unable to pronounce itself on the grave and serious situation. U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations Linda Thomas-Greenfield told a private meeting of the UN Security Council that Washington believes a public statement by the body would not help calm tensions between Israelis and the Palestinians. She added that their focus has been and will continue to be on an intensive diplomatic engagement to bring this violence to an end, highlighting that U.S. President Joe Biden expressed support for a ceasefire. Several diplomats said that China, Tunisia and Norway, the three countries pushing for action in the Council, did not send other members a new proposed statement ahead of the talks. The United States had rejected 3 prior drafts calling for an end to the fighting. On the ground, a convoy of international aid trucks that started rolling into Gaza through a border crossing from Israel, Karim Shalom, was quickly halted Tuesday when Israel shuttered it again, citing a mortar attack on the area. Minister of Defense and Military Production Mohammed Zaki headed to Cyprus on Tuesday on top of a high-ranking delegation in the framework of continued bilateral coordination. The visit is expected to witness tripartite talks among the defense ministers of the defense of Egypt, Cyprus and Greece. The talks will tackle means of boosting military cooperation as well as a number of issues of mutual concern in light of the partnership relations and military cooperation among the 3 countries in various fields.